The shuttle descended through the docking bay of the Galactic Council station with all the grace of a falling brick. Ambassador Elena Vasquez gripped her seat restraints as the pilot fought with the manual controls, compensating for the station's exotic gravitational fields that their computers couldn't quite interpret correctly. 50 years. 50 years of humanity sending messages into the void, and this was the welcome they received. The station itself was massive beyond comprehension. It orbited a blue giant star in what the Council called neutral space, though Elena suspected nothing in the galaxy was truly neutral anymore. Through the viewport, she could see ships of 100 different designs docked at various ports. Some looked organic, grown, rather than built. Others seemed to be made of pure crystal that caught and refracted the starlight. And there, near the bottom tier, was the UNS Defiant, humanity's escort vessel. It looked crude and angular compared to the elegant curves of the alien ships, like a hammer among sculptures. "Ambassador, we've been cleared to disembark," her aide, James, said quietly. He was young, barely 30, and this was his first off-world assignment. His hands shook slightly as he gathered the datapads containing humanity's presentation materials. Elena stood and smoothed her uniform. She had chosen to wear her old naval dress whites rather than civilian clothes. Let them see that humanity understood discipline and order. "Remember," she said to her small team of 5, "we're here to observe as much as we are to be observed. Watch everything. Record everything your implants can capture." The airlock opened with a hiss that sounded too loud in the silence. The docking bay beyond was enormous, with ceilings that stretched up at least 50 meters. The air smelled strange, like ozone mixed with something floral that Elena couldn't identify. Temperature felt perfect, humidity just right. They had done their homework on human comfort requirements, at least. A delegation waited for them, 7 beings of different species, none of them human. The one in front stood nearly 3 meters tall, with scaled skin that shifted between green and blue depending on how the light hit it. Its eyes were vertical slits, and when it opened its mouth to speak, Elena saw rows of sharp teeth. "Welcome, representatives of humanity." The translator implant in Elena's ear rendered the words in English, though she could hear the underlying hisses and clicks of the creature's native tongue. "I am Overlord ZXthar, Speaker for the Galactic Council. We have reviewed your petition for membership." There was something in the way he said it. Not quite contempt, but close, like a teacher addressing a particularly slow student. "Thank you, Overlord ZXthar," Elena replied, keeping her voice neutral. "Humanity is honored to finally receive recognition from the Council. We look forward to learning our place among the stars." ZXthar's head tilted slightly. "Yes, your place. That is what we will discuss." He turned without waiting for a response and began walking toward a corridor that branched off from the docking bay. The other aliens fell into step behind him. Elena and her team had no choice but to follow. The corridors were wide and tall, clearly designed to accommodate species of vastly different sizes. They passed dozens of aliens going about their business. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. One appeared to float, its body a gelatinous mass contained in some kind of environmental suit. None of them paid the human delegation any attention. "Your species achieved faster-than-light travel approximately 50 Earth years ago," ZXthar said as they walked. He didn't look back, addressing them over his shoulder. "Using what you call a fusion drive system to power a crude gravity manipulation engine. Very traditional." James bristled beside Elena, but she touched his arm lightly. "Not yet. Let them talk." "We have refined the technology significantly since then," Elena said. "Our current drives are efficient and reliable." "Reliable," ZXthar repeated, and this time there was definite amusement in his voice. "Yes, I suppose they are. You have explored 17 star systems in 5 decades. The Vraxians explored 17 systems in their first 3 years with FTL capability. They entered a massive chamber that could only be the council hall. It was circular, with seats arranged in ascending rings around a central platform. Hundreds of seats, maybe thousands, though only about a third were currently occupied. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing data and images Elena couldn't immediately interpret. Zxthar led them to the central platform. "Stand here. The council will address you shortly." The delegation stood in a tight group as Zxthar climbed to a seat in the second ring, directly in front of them. Other council members began to pay attention now, turning to examine the humans with various appendages that might have been eyes. A chime sounded, pure and clear. Zxthar stood. "The Council recognizes the species known as humanity, native to the planet Earth in the Sol system. They have petitioned for membership and recognition. The Evaluation Committee has completed its assessment." A holographic display materialized above the platform, showing Earth rotating slowly. Data scrolled alongside it in dozens of languages. Elena's implant translated the relevant sections. Population, 8 billion. Technology level, Tier 7. Military capability, minimal. Notable achievements, none listed. Tier 7. Elena felt her stomach sink. She had done her research. The Council used an 8-tier system to classify civilizations. Tier 1 species were the ancient ones, the founders. Tier 8 species were pre-spaceflight. Tier 7 meant humanity ranked just barely above primitives who hadn't left their home worlds. The Council has determined that humanity may be granted limited membership status. Zxthar continued. "You will be assigned a territorial zone not to exceed 15 light-years from your home system. You will be prohibited from colonizing systems claimed by other species. You will be restricted from accessing Council databases above Level 3. And most importantly, you will abide by the Technology Treaty." "Technology Treaty?" Elena asked, her voice carefully controlled. Another council member stood, this one insectoid with 4 arms and compound eyes. "The Technology Treaty prevents lower-tier species from developing or deploying weapons and technologies they are not culturally prepared to handle responsibly. You will submit your current military inventory for review. Certain technologies will be prohibited." James whispered urgently to Elena. "They're going to disarm us." Elena didn't respond to him. Instead, she addressed the council. "May I ask what technologies would be prohibited?" Zxthar's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "Your kinetic weapons, for instance. Railguns, missiles, projectile firearms, these are crude and dangerous. You will adopt standard plasma-based weaponry under council supervision." "Our kinetic weapons are crude?" Elena felt a flash of anger but suppressed it. "Yet they are what we have developed and refined over centuries. Precisely why they must be replaced," the insectoid council member said. "You cling to primitive technologies because you know nothing else. We will educate you. In time, perhaps in another century or 2, you may advance to Tier 6 status." Around the chamber, there was a sound that Elena's translator rendered as laughter. Different species, different sounds. But the meaning was universal. They were being mocked. Another council member stood, this one covered in what looked like feathers. "If I may, I think we are being too harsh. Humanity's chemical propulsion systems, while antiquated, do show creativity. Their fusion reactors are actually quite stable for such a young species. We should encourage them. Encourage them to remain in their small corner of space where they cannot cause problems," Zxthar said dismissively. "The Vraxian Empire has already expressed concerns about human colonization attempts in the Kelvar region." Elena's attention sharpened. "The Kelvar region is unclaimed space according to all navigation charts we've obtained." "Unclaimed by council species, perhaps," Zxthar said. "But the Vraxians have historic claims dating back 3,000 years. You could not have known this, of course, lacking access to proper historical databases. This is why Tier 7 species must be supervised. The meeting continued for another 2 hours. Elena and her team were presented with a document containing hundreds of pages of restrictions, requirements, and obligations. They were given 72 hours to review and accept the terms. Refusal, Zexthar made clear, would mean humanity would be declared a rogue species, cut off from all council contact and trade. When they were finally dismissed, Elena led her team back through the corridors in silence. Only when they were safely inside their shuttle, with the airlocks sealed and the engines warming up, did she allow herself to speak. Impressions? Sarah, her chief of staff, pulled up her datapad. They're technologically advanced, but not as much as I expected. Most of what they have is refinement of existing technologies, not revolutionary developments. Their energy shields are impressive, but they're based on principles we already understand. Their weapons? Elena asked. All energy-based from what we saw. Plasma cannons, particle beams, some kind of exotic matter disruptors. No kinetic weapons at all. Sarah paused. Ambassador, I think they genuinely don't understand the advantages of kinetic weapons. Look at their shield technology. It's optimized entirely for deflecting energy attacks. Elena nodded slowly. She had noticed the same thing. They got energy shields early in their development, so they never bothered with kinetic defenses. Exactly. And once everyone has energy shields, everyone develops energy weapons to penetrate them. It's an arms race that locked them into a specific technological pathway. While we took the hard road, James added. No shields, so we had to perfect armor, point defense, evasive maneuvers. We made kinetic weapons more and more efficient because we had no other choice. Elena looked out the viewport as the shuttle lifted off. The council station grew smaller behind them. Contact Captain Chen on the Defiant. I want a full strategic briefing in 6 hours, and I want our assessment team to analyze every scan we took of those council ships. You think it's going to come to conflict? Sarah asked quietly. I think, Elena said slowly, that the council is about to learn that primitive does not mean weak, and crude does not mean ineffective. She pulled up the document they had been given, scrolling through pages of restrictions. They want to dictate what weapons we can build, where we can go, how we can defend ourselves. They think we'll submit because we're desperate to join their club. Aren't we? James asked. Elena smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. 50 years ago, maybe, but we've learned a lot in 50 years. We've mapped dozens of systems, established colonies, built a fleet. We did all of that without their help, without their permission. We sent them messages asking to join their council, not begging for survival. The Defiant came into view, hanging in space like a steel dagger. It was ugly compared to the graceful alien ships, all hard angles and armor plating. But Elena looked at it and felt pride. Humanity had built that ship with their own hands, using their own technology, refined through centuries of warfare and competition. Send a message to Earth, Elena said. Encrypted, highest priority. Tell them the Council has made their offer, and tell them we're going to need to revise our negotiating position. What should the revision be? Sarah asked. Elena thought about Zexthar's condescending tone, the laughter of the council members, the casual dismissal of human achievements. She thought about the 15 light-year restriction, the technology prohibitions, the assumption that humanity would simply accept whatever terms were dictated. Tell them, she said, that humanity doesn't negotiate from our knees anymore. If the council wants our cooperation, they'll give us respect. If they want our submission, they can come and take it. The shuttle docked with the Defiant 10 minutes later. Captain Marcus Chen was waiting in the bay, his weathered face showing no emotion as Elena disembarked. Bad meeting? He asked. Productive meeting? Elena replied. I learned exactly what the council thinks of us. Now we need to educate them on what we really are. Chen nodded once. I've been analyzing their ship configurations while you were gone. Their shields are impressive, but I think I see some interesting vulnerabilities. Show me everything, Elena said. We have 72 hours before they expect our answer. Let's make sure we know exactly what we're saying yes or no to. As they walked toward the briefing room, Elena allowed herself one moment of doubt. Was she really considering defying a galactic government that had stood for thousands of years? Was she risking humanity's future on pride? But then she remembered Zex Thar's smile, the casual way he had dismissed human technology, the assumption that they would simply obey. No. This wasn't about pride. This was about something much more important. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. They just had to make the Council understand that. 3 months had passed since humanity's formal introduction to the Galactic Council, and tensions had only grown worse. Earth had accepted the Council's terms, but with significant amendments that were still being negotiated. The biggest point of contention remained the Kelvar region. Kelvar Station was a small mining colony built on an asteroid in a system roughly 23 light-years from Earth. Technically outside humanity's assigned 15 light-year zone, but the humans had surveyed and claimed it before the Council's restrictions were put in place. 200 miners and their families called it home now, extracting rare Earth elements that were crucial for quantum computer manufacturing. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiant, watching the tactical display with growing concern. 3 Vraxian warships had just entered the system, and their intentions were clear from their trajectory. They were heading straight for the asteroid. Communications from the lead Vraxian vessel, Lieutenant Barnes reported from the comm station. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Chen ordered. The voice that came through was harsh and guttural, even with the translator software smoothing it out. Attention human trespassers. This system belongs to the Vraxian Empire by ancient right. You have violated Council law by establishing unauthorized settlements in claimed territory. You have 1 standard hour to evacuate, or you will be removed by force. Chen pulled up the file on Vraxian forces. They were a Tier 3 civilization, meaning they ranked 4 levels above humanity in the Council's classification system. Their ships were larger than the Defiant, covered in energy shield generators that glowed faintly blue. Plasma cannon arrays lined their hulls. On paper, each Vraxian ship could probably take on 3 human vessels and win. Sir, incoming transmission from Kelvar Station, Barnes said. It's Governor Mitchell. The screen switched to show a middle-aged woman with graying hair and dirt-stained coveralls. Behind her, Chen could see the colony's control center with worried-looking personnel at their stations. Captain Chen, thank God, Mitchell said. We just received the Vraxian ultimatum. There's no way we can evacuate 200 people in 1 hour. And even if we could, we're not leaving. We followed every proper survey protocol. This system was unclaimed. I know, Governor, Chen replied. We're already moving to intercept. The Arlington and the Mumbai are 2 hours out. We'll handle this. Captain, those are Vraxian warships. Everyone knows their military capabilities. You can't... Governor Mitchell, Chen interrupted gently. Trust me. We've been preparing for this possibility. Just keep your people calm and ready for emergency shelter protocols. Defiant out. He turned to his tactical officer. Commander Okonkwo, status on our weapon systems? Commander Okonkwo pulled up a holographic display. All 6 railgun batteries charged and ready. Point defense systems online. Missile tubes loaded with kinetic penetrators. We're ready, sir. But I have to point out that we're outnumbered and supposedly outgunned. Supposedly, Chen repeated with a slight smile. Lieutenant Barnes, open a channel to the Vraxian ships. A face appeared on screen that looked vaguely reptilian, with amber eyes and a crest of bone plates along the skull. This was Commander Vrath, according to the data overlay. I am Captain Marcus Chen of the United Nations ship Defiant. This system was properly surveyed and claimed by human colonists according to established interstellar law. Your claim of ancient rights was never filed with any recognized authority. Withdraw your ships immediately. Vrath's mouth opened in what the translator interpreted as laughter. Ancient rights predate your species' space travel by millennia, human. They do not require filing. And you dare threaten us? Your primitive ship against 3 Vraxian warships? This is amusing. I'm giving you one warning, Chen said, his voice level and calm. Leave this system within 1 hour, or face the consequences. We have energy shields that can withstand plasma bombardment for hours, Vrath said. What can your kinetic toys possibly do to us? Our intelligence reports say your weapons fire metal slugs, like the primitive weapons of species still in their industrial age. This is the problem with Tier 7 civilizations. You do not understand modern warfare. 1 hour, Chen repeated and cut the connection. Sir, Council observers just jumped into the system, Barnes reported. 1 ship unarmed. They're taking position at safe distance. Chen nodded. The Council had sent observers to many of these disputed situations lately, watching to see how humanity would handle itself when pushed. This would be a test, he knew, not just for humanity, but for the Council's assumptions about human capabilities. Commander Okonkwo, target solutions on all 3 Vraxian ships. I want overlapping fields of fire. Targeting solutions locked, Okonkwo confirmed. Sir, their shields are active. Energy readings are off the scale. Those shields could probably absorb every weapon we have. Every weapon they expect us to have, Chen corrected. Helm, bring us about. Combat speed. Let's show them what Tier 7 engineering looks like. The Defiant began to move, its fusion engines pushing it toward the Vraxian formation. On the tactical display, the 3 enemy ships maintained their position, confident in their superiority. They had positioned themselves in a standard Council battle formation, overlapping their shield coverage for maximum protection. They're not even taking evasive positions, Okonkwo observed. They think we're no threat at all. Good, Chen said. Maintain course. Charge the railguns to maximum. I want full power to all 6 batteries. Throughout the ship, the railgun systems came fully online. Each battery contained magnetic accelerators stretching nearly 50 meters along the Defiant's spine and ventral surfaces. The ammunition was simple. Tungsten carbide slugs, each weighing 10 kilograms, shaped for optimal penetration. No explosives, no exotic materials, just dense metal accelerated to enormous velocities. Sir, the Arlington and Mumbai are requesting orders, Barnes said. They'll be in range in 90 minutes. Tell them to maintain course but stay out of engagement range. They're to observe only unless I give direct orders. Sir, are you sure? 3 against 1 is exactly the odds I want, Chen finished. This needs to be unmistakable. No room for the Council to claim we won through numbers or luck. The hour ticked down. The Vraxian ships didn't move. On the colony, Governor Mitchell had ordered everyone into the reinforced shelters, but Chen knew they were watching. Everyone was watching. This would be the first real test of human military capability against a Council species. With 5 minutes remaining, Vrath's face appeared on screen again, uninvited. This is your final chance, human. Withdraw your ship and evacuate the colony. The Vraxian Empire is being generous by offering this opportunity. Do not force us to destroy you. Chen looked at him for a long moment. Target lock confirmed on your vessels, Commander Vrath. You have 3 minutes to withdraw. Target lock? Vrath's crest rose in what might have been anger or amusement. Our shields will disperse any energy weapons you possess. And your kinetic weapons? They are useless against modern shielding technology. The Vraxian Empire mastered shield theory 2,000 years ago. 2 minutes, Chen said calmly. Vrath made a dismissive gesture. Very well. When we have reduced your ship to debris, perhaps the Council will finally force your species to accept your proper place. Wrath out. The connection cut. Chen waited, watching the countdown timer. 60 seconds, 30, 10. All batteries on fire on my mark, he said quietly. Full spread, staggered timing by 0.2 seconds per battery. Target the lead ship's center mass. Firing solutions confirmed, Okonkwo said. The timer hit 0. Fire! The Defiant shuddered as the first railgun battery discharged. The tungsten carbide slug accelerated down the magnetic corridor, leaving the barrel at nearly 9,000 kilometers per second, roughly 3% of light speed. 0.2 seconds later, the second battery fired, then the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. 6 slugs, each carrying kinetic energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon, crossed the distance to the lead Vraxian ship in under 3 seconds. The Vraxian shields lit up brilliantly as they detected incoming threats. Energy fields designed to disperse and deflect plasma bolts and particle beams sprang to full power. For energy weapons, those shields were nearly impenetrable. For solid matter traveling at 3% of light speed, they might as well have been made of tissue paper. The first slug hit the shield and punched through it like it wasn't there. The energy field, optimized for dispersing heat and electromagnetic radiation, had no mechanism to slow or stop solid kinetic energy. The slug continued through the shield without losing any appreciable velocity and struck the Vraxian ship's hull. The impact released all that kinetic energy in an instant. The hull vaporized. The slug continued through the ship, creating a perfectly circular tunnel that glowed white-hot. It exited the far side and continued into space, taking with it a spray of molten metal and atmosphere. 0.2 seconds later, the second slug hit, slightly offset from the first. Then the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Each impact created a new catastrophic wound. The lead Vraxian ship, designed to withstand hours of plasma bombardment, came apart in less than 2 seconds. Its reactor containment failed, and the resulting explosion lit up the system like a second sun. Targets 2 and 3 are breaking formation, Okonkwo reported, his voice steady despite the shocked looks on the faces around the bridge. They're trying to maneuver. Track them! Fire as batteries reload. 4 shots per target. Spread the impact points. The remaining Vraxian ships were scrambling now, their confidence shattered. They tried to bring their plasma cannons to bear. But the Defiant was already moving, using thrusters to present different angles. More railgun shots fired, the magnetic accelerators recharging with brutal efficiency. The second Vraxian ship tried to rotate its strongest shield facing toward the Defiant. It didn't matter. The tungsten carbide slugs punched through shield and hull with equal ease. 4 impacts in rapid succession, and the ship began venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Its engines went dark as the power systems failed. The third ship tried to run. Its pilot must have realized the futility of fighting an enemy their shields couldn't stop. The ship began burning hard for the system's edge, where it could safely jump to FTL. Maintain fire, Chen ordered. Don't let it escape. 3 more slugs caught the fleeing ship. 1 struck an engine nacelle, sending the ship into an uncontrolled spin. The second and third shots hit center mass, and the ship broke apart, its structural integrity compromised beyond recovery. From first shot to last, the engagement had lasted 4 minutes and 43 seconds. 3 Vraxian warships, representative of a Tier 3 civilization's military might, had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris and frozen atmosphere. The bridge of the Defiant was silent for a long moment. Then Lieutenant Barnes spoke, his voice shaky. "Sir, we're being hailed by the Council observer ship. Put it through." An alien face appeared, one Chen didn't recognize, some species with large black eyes and smooth gray skin. The translator caught up after a moment. "Captain Chen, this is Observer Talmec of the Galactic Council Monitoring Division. We have recorded the engagement. I must request clarification on your weapons systems. Our sensors detected no energy discharge prior to the destruction of the Vraxian vessels. How did you penetrate their shields? Chen leaned back in his chair. Observer Talmech, we used standard kinetic weapons, railguns specifically. Tungsten carbide projectiles accelerated to high velocity through magnetic induction. The technology has been in human use for over 2 centuries. But the shields are designed to stop energy weapons, Chen finished. We noticed that. Your shields are very impressive at dispersing heat and radiation. But kinetic energy? Solid matter at high velocity? Your shields weren't built to handle that because none of you use kinetic weapons anymore. There was a long pause. The Council was not aware that kinetic weapons could be so effective. Respectfully, Observer, the Council assumed our weapons were primitive because they were different from yours. That was a mistake. Chen glanced at the debris field that had been the Vraxian ships. I suggest the Council reconsider its assessment of human military capabilities. The Vraxian Empire will demand sanctions against humanity for this attack, Talmech said, though he sounded uncertain. The Vraxian Empire violated established interstellar law by threatening a legally established colony, Chen countered. We defended our citizens. The Defiant has full combat recordings available for Council review. Your own observers witnessed the entire engagement. The Vraxians fired first. Actually, neither side had fired first except the railguns. But Chen was betting the Council would be too shocked by the method of victory to worry about technicalities. We will file a complete report, Talmech said finally. The Council will review these events. Captain Chen, humanity's technological classification may need to be reassessed. We look forward to that reassessment, Chen said neutrally. Defiant out. He turned to his crew. Damage report. 0 damage, sir, Okonkwo reported. They never got a shot off. Our shields weren't even activated. Good. Lieutenant Barnes, open a channel to Kelvar Station. Let Governor Mitchell know the threat has been neutralized. While Barnes made the call, Chen pulled up the strategic map of local space. This engagement would change everything. The Council had watched humanity destroy 3 of their member species' warships in less than 5 minutes, using weapons the Council had dismissed as primitive relics. Within days, maybe hours, every species in the Council would know what happened here. They would know that their shields, the defensive technology they had relied on for thousands of years, were useless against human weapons. They would know that humanity, ranked as a lowly Tier 7 civilization, had just demonstrated the ability to destroy Tier 3 warships with contemptuous ease. Some would be frightened, some would be angry, some would be calculating, wondering what other assumptions about human capabilities were wrong. And some, Chen knew, would decide that humanity needed to be put down before they became a real threat. The Vraxian Empire wouldn't take this loss quietly. Other species might decide to strike preemptively. Sir, message from Ambassador Vasquez at the Council Station, Barnes said. Encrypted, highest priority. Chen opened it on his personal screen. Vasquez's message was brief. Well done. Come home. We need to prepare for what happens next. Chen nodded to himself. What happened next would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. They had shown they could fight. Now they would see if they could survive the storm that fight had unleashed. 6 weeks after the Kelvar incident, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the newly constructed diplomatic facility on Luna, Earth's moon. Humanity had insisted on hosting the emergency council session on their own territory. After Kelvar, the council had agreed, though Elena knew it was more from caution than respect. They wanted to see Earth's defenses firsthand, to understand what they were really dealing with. Through the reinforced windows, she could see Earth hanging in the black void, half in shadow, half illuminated. Somewhere down there, 8 billion people were watching and waiting to see if this meeting would bring peace or war. The Council had sent an ultimatum 3 days ago. Surrender all kinetic weapons and submit to Tier 8 classification, 1 step above pre-spaceflight primitives, or face a full enforcement action. Humanity's response had been 2 words: come in force. Now 30 warships from 5 different Council species were approaching the solar system, carrying troops and weapons meant to force compliance. The Council believed it was bringing overwhelming force. Elena knew better. "Ambassador, the Council representatives are arriving," James announced. He looked tired. They all did. The past 6 weeks had been a frantic scramble of diplomatic communications, military preparations, and strategic planning. "How many came in person?" Elena asked. 7, including Overlord Zexthar. The rest are attending via hologram from their homeworlds. 7. That meant 7 species were confident enough to send their representatives into what might become a war zone. Or arrogant enough. Elena wasn't sure which. The Council members entered the conference room in a procession. Zexthar led them, his scaled hide looking darker than Elena remembered. His eyes, those vertical slits, fixed on her with what might have been anger or calculation. The others followed. The insectoid representative she had seen before, a floating gelatinous creature in its environmental suit, a being that looked like animated crystal, and 3 others of various forms. "Ambassador Vasquez," Zexthar said without preamble, "we have come to witness humanity's compliance with Council requirements. Our enforcement fleet is 6 hours from Earth orbit. You have that long to signal your ships to stand down and begin the process of weapons surrender." Elena gestured to the seats around the large oval table. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," Zexthar said. But he sat anyway. The others followed, some in chairs, some on specialized platforms. "The Council has made its decision. You violated established protocols by destroying Vraxian vessels with unauthorized weapons. You have been reclassified as a dangerous species requiring immediate containment. The Vraxian vessels were destroyed in self-defense after they threatened a legal human colony," Elena replied calmly. "Your own observers confirmed this. The method of destruction is the issue," the insectoid representative said. Its translator rendered its clicking mandibles into precise English. "Kinetic weapons of that power are prohibited under Council law for species below Tier 4. You knew this and used them anyway." "We knew that the Council preferred energy weapons," Elena corrected. "We were never informed that our existing weapons were prohibited, and even if we had been, we would not have complied. Humanity does not surrender its means of self-defense on anyone's order." The crystal being chimed, and its words came through as pure musical tones that the translator converted. "You speak of self-defense, yet your weapons destroyed shielded warships in minutes. This is not defense. This is aggression using exploitative technology." Elena pulled up a holographic display showing the Kelvar engagement from multiple angles. "Let me show you what happened at Kelvar. The Vraxian ships came to forcibly remove our colonists from legally claimed territory. Captain Chen gave them 1 hour to withdraw. They refused. They believed their shields made them invincible." She paused the recording at the moment the first railgun slug pierced the Vraxian shield. "They were wrong. Because you exploited a weakness you knew existed," Zexthar hissed. "Your ships were designed specifically to counter energy shielding. This is aggressive military planning." "Our ships were designed to survive," Elena said. "We didn't know we would encounter energy shields. We didn't know the galaxy used them almost exclusively. We simply built weapons that worked for us, and armor that could withstand what we could build. That's called engineering, not aggression." "The intent is clear," Zexthar insisted. "You saw an opportunity to dominate through unconventional means. The Council cannot allow—" A tone interrupted him. James appeared at Elena's shoulder. "Ambassador, the enforcement fleet has entered the outer solar system. They're broadcasting a demand for immediate surrender." "Put it through," Elena said. A new face appeared on the holographic display, this one belonging to a species Elena hadn't seen before. 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, skin that looked like smooth stone. The translator identified him as Fleet Commander Korvax of the Thalzin Navy. "Attention, human forces. This is Fleet Commander Korvax commanding the Council Enforcement Fleet. We are approaching Earth with 30 warships representing 5 member species. You are ordered to deactivate all defensive systems and prepare for inspection. Any resistance will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. You have 1 hour to comply." Elena looked at Zexthar. "Is this how the Council operates? Threatening peaceful species with overwhelming force?" "You are not peaceful," Zexthar said flatly. "You are dangerous. The fleet will ensure compliance for the safety of all Council members." "I see." Elena stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth. "James, open a channel to the fleet. Let me speak to Commander Korvax directly." A moment later, Korvax's face appeared on a smaller display. "I am Ambassador Vasquez, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. Your fleet is currently in violation of Sol System sovereignty. I'm ordering you to withdraw immediately." Korvax's 4 eyes all focused on her with what might have been amusement. "Ambassador, we have 30 warships. Your entire fleet consists of perhaps 15 vessels total. Your military capabilities are well documented. Stand down." "Commander, our military capabilities are clearly not as well documented as you believe, but I'll give you one chance. Turn your fleet around, leave this system, and we can resolve this diplomatically." "You have 1 hour," Korvax repeated and cut the connection. Elena turned back to the Council representatives. "You've made a mistake. Several mistakes, actually. Your first mistake was assuming that the Kelvar incident was a fluke. Your second was bringing a fleet into our home system. And your third, most critical mistake was giving us 50 years to prepare for this moment." "Prepare?" The insectoid representative's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You have barely a dozen warships. How—" "James," Elena interrupted, "activate the grid." Throughout the solar system, hidden installations came online. Hundreds of platforms that had been disguised as mining stations, research outposts, and commercial satellites suddenly broadcast their real nature. Railgun batteries, each one larger than those mounted on the Defiant. Missile pods containing thousands of kinetic kill vehicles. Point defense networks that could track and target objects moving at relativistic speeds. On Luna alone, 23 hidden fortresses revealed themselves, their weapons systems spinning up to full power. Mars had 16. The asteroid belt contained over 100. Even the moons of Jupiter and Saturn held defensive installations. The holographic display updated to show the tactical situation. The 30 Council ships were surrounded by weapons platforms that outnumbered them 10 to 1. And every single weapon was kinetic-based, designed to punch through energy shields like they didn't exist. Zexthar rose from his seat, his scales shifting color rapidly. This is impossible. The Council monitors all military construction. We would have detected this." "You monitored what you understood," Elena said. "You looked for ships, for energy signatures, for exotic matter weapons. You didn't look for simple railgun platforms because you thought kinetic weapons were primitive. We built our defense grid over 40 years, piece by piece, disguised as civilian infrastructure. Every mining operation, every research station, every commercial satellite was chosen for its strategic positioning. You planned to betray the Council from the beginning, the Crystal being accused. We planned to defend ourselves, Elena corrected. After we sent messages for 50 years and were ignored, we decided to assume the worst. That when we finally did make contact, the galaxy might not be friendly, so we prepared. "Commander Korvax is attempting to hail us," James reported. "Put him through." Korvax's face appeared, and his expression had changed dramatically. 4 eyes that had shown amusement now showed shock. "Ambassador, we are detecting multiple weapons platforms, hundreds of them. This was not in our intelligence reports." "Your intelligence was incomplete," Elena said. And your shields won't stop what we're about to fire. Ask the Vraxians how well that worked out. You have 30 minutes to withdraw your fleet from this system. If you're still here after that, we will interpret it as a hostile act and respond accordingly. You cannot threaten a Council enforcement fleet, Korvax sputtered. This is an act of war against the entire Council. No, Commander. Your fleet entering our system without permission was an act of war. We're simply defending our home. 30 minutes. Defiant out. The connection cut. Elena turned back to the Council representatives, who were all standing now, some of them moving toward the door. You cannot do this, Zexthar said, but his voice had lost its earlier confidence. The Council will not accept... The Council will accept whatever reality we present them with, Elena interrupted. You came here expecting to find a weak, primitive species you could bully into submission. Instead, you found a species that spent half a century preparing for exactly this scenario. Now you have a choice. You can order that fleet to withdraw, or you can watch it get destroyed. Either way, humanity will not surrender our weapons. We could bring more ships, the insectoid said. Hundreds of them. Thousands. You could, Elena agreed. And we would destroy them too. Our weapons work, Council member. They work very well. And unlike your energy shields and plasma weapons, we can manufacture kinetic weapons cheaply and quickly. How many ships are you willing to lose to prove a point? The room fell silent except for the various breathing sounds of different species. The holographic display showed the Council fleet beginning to maneuver, trying to position themselves for optimal shield coverage. It wouldn't help them, but Elena understood the psychological need to do something. Ambassador, James said quietly, we're being hailed by Earth Defense Command. Admiral Otieno requests permission to fire a warning shot. Elena considered it. A warning shot would prove humanity's capabilities without causing casualties. It might save lives if it convinced the Council fleet to withdraw. Approved. One warning shot. Target the lead vessel's forward shield with a single railgun round. Low power, just enough to demonstrate penetration. On the display, one of Luna's orbital platforms rotated to face the Council fleet. A single tungsten carbide slug accelerated toward the lead ship, moving at only 1% of light speed, far below the weapon's maximum capability. The slug crossed the distance in seconds. The Thalzin warship's shields lit up brilliantly, energy fields at maximum power. The slug passed through like the shield wasn't there and struck the armored hull with a bright flash. It didn't penetrate the hull completely at that reduced velocity, but the impact created a crater 10 meters across in the ship's forward armor. James, open a channel to the fleet, all ships. When James nodded, Elena spoke clearly. Council Enforcement Fleet, this is Ambassador Vasquez. That was a single railgun round at approximately 1/3 combat power. It penetrated your shields without slowing down. We have 437 platforms in this system, each carrying multiple weapons. If you remain in this system, we will fire at full combat power. Your shields will not protect you. Your armor will not save you. This is not a threat. This is mathematics and physics. You have 25 minutes to reach the system's edge and jump to FTL. I suggest you start moving now. She cut the connection and looked at Zexthar. Order them to withdraw. There's been enough posturing. No one needs to die today. Zexthar's scales had gone almost black. The Council will never accept this humiliation. The Council will accept whatever reality exists, Elena said firmly. We didn't ask for this confrontation. You brought it here. We're simply not rolling over because you expected us to. Now order that fleet to withdraw, or explain to your government why you let 30 ships get destroyed because you were too proud to back down. For a long moment, Zexthar stared at her. Then, slowly, he pulled out a communication device. This is Overlord Zexthar to Fleet Commander Korvax. Withdraw all vessels from the Sol system immediately. Disengage and return to Council space. Overlord, Korvax's voice was confused. But the mission, is over, Zexthar finished. Withdraw now. That is a direct order from the Council. On the tactical display, the Council fleet began to turn, moving back toward the outer system. They would need 30 minutes to reach safe jump distance, but they were moving away. No more shots would be fired today. Elena felt tension drain from her shoulders. Thank you, Overlord. That was the right decision. Do not misunderstand, Zexthar said coldly. This changes nothing. The Council will reassess, reconsider, and respond. You have won this engagement, but you cannot win against the entire galaxy. We don't want to fight the entire galaxy, Elena said. We just want respect, equal treatment, the right to defend ourselves without asking permission. Give us that, and we have no quarrel with anyone. Respect must be earned. We just earned it, Elena replied. You came here with 30 warships planning to force our surrender. You're leaving with 30 warships because we allowed it. We could have destroyed that fleet. We chose not to. That's not the action of an aggressive species. That's restraint. That's mercy. If you can't respect our capabilities, at least respect our restraint. The Council representatives left shortly after, escorted back to their ships in silence. When they were gone, James slumped into a chair. We did it. We actually did it. We survived, Elena corrected. That's all. The Council won't forget this. Some species will want revenge. Others will want to understand how we did it. And some... She paused, thinking. Some will realize that the Council's authority isn't as absolute as everyone thought. That's going to have consequences. What kind of consequences? Elena looked out at Earth again, at the planet that had spent 50 years preparing for a moment like this. The kind that change everything. The Council has ruled through assumed superiority for thousands of years. We just proved that superiority is an illusion. Other species will notice. Some will be inspired. The galaxy just got a lot more interesting. She pulled up a communication screen. Get me Admiral Otieno. We need to keep the defense grid active for now. And contact Ambassador Hayes on the Council station. Tell her to start reaching out to smaller species, ones who might be tired of Council restrictions. If the Council won't give us equal treatment, we'll build our own alliance. An alliance of lower-tier species, James asked. An alliance of species who believe in self-determination, Elena corrected. The Council's hierarchy is based on when species develop certain technologies, not on actual capability or wisdom. There are probably dozens of species ranked below their actual abilities, just like us. Let's find them. As James began making calls, Elena watched the Council fleet disappear toward the outer system. Zexthar was right about one thing. This changed nothing in terms of Council policy, but it changed everything in terms of what was possible. Humanity had just told the galaxy's ruling government no and made it stick. That simple act of defiance would echo across 1,000 worlds. The question now was whether it would inspire rebellion or unite the Council against them. Either way, humanity would be ready. They had spent 50 years preparing for first contact. Now they would spend however long it took preparing for what came next. 6 months had passed since the Council enforcement fleet withdrew from Sol system. An uneasy peace held across the galaxy, maintained less by treaties and more by mutual uncertainty. The Council had lost face, and everyone knew it. Smaller species were asking uncomfortable questions. Why should the Council dictate what weapons they could use? Why should ancient species determine the fate of newer ones? Humanity had spent those 6 months quietly building alliances. 12 species had formally requested diplomatic relations with Earth, most of them ranked Tier 5 or below by the Council's classification. Ambassador Vasquez had personally visited each one, establishing trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. The Council watched with growing alarm, but took no action, until the Salthians decided to act. Dr. Sarah Kim stood in the quantum research facility beneath Tokyo, reviewing data streams with growing concern. The facility had been built to study exotic physics, but for the past year, its real purpose had been detecting quantum entanglement signatures, the telltale sign of teleportation technology. And right now, every sensor in the facility was screaming warnings. "Director Kim, we have multiple quantum spikes," her assistant, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, called out from his station. "Thousands of them, all synchronized. They're forming a pattern consistent with coordinate-locked transportation." Sarah's blood went cold. "Locations?" "Everywhere. Every major city on Earth. New York, London, Beijing, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Lagos, Moscow." "Director, there are quantum signatures forming inside population centers worldwide." Sarah grabbed her communicator. "This is Director Kim at Tokyo facility. I need immediate connection to Earth Defense Command. Code Omega. We have incoming teleportation attacks." The response was immediate. Admiral Otieno's face appeared on her screen, already tense. "Director Kim, we're seeing it too. Every defense grid sensor is lighting up. What are we looking at?" "Teleportation bombs," Sarah said, pulling up her analysis. "Someone is quantum entangling explosive devices to coordinates inside our cities. Based on the signature patterns, I'd estimate we have maybe 90 seconds before materialization completes." "Can we stop it?" "Not with conventional methods. The objects are still in quantum flux. They haven't fully materialized yet, so we can't shoot them. But..." Sarah pulled up a different display, one showing theoretical calculations her team had been working on for months. "We might be able to redirect them." "Redirect?" "The teleportation process uses quantum entanglement to link 2 points in space. But during the materialization phase, the quantum state is unstable. If we can disrupt the entanglement field with precisely calibrated interference, we can theoretically alter the arrival coordinates." Otieno stared at her. "You're saying we can change where these bombs appear?" "In theory. We've never tested it at this scale. But Admiral, we built Project Lockdown for exactly this scenario. Every major city has quantum disruptors installed in the emergency systems. If we activate them now, we might be able to redirect the bombs away from civilian areas." "Might?" "It's either try this or evacuate 8 billion people in 90 seconds. Otieno made the decision in heartbeat. "Do it. Authorization code Otieno 77 Alpha. Activate all Project Lockdown facilities globally and pray this works." "Director." Sarah turned to her team. "Activate all disruptors, full power, target every quantum signature in the system." Throughout Earth, hidden quantum disruptor arrays came online. They had been installed over the past 6 months as part of humanity's crash program to understand and counter teleportation technology. The Council species had used quantum transportation for thousands of years, but they had never weaponized it like this, probably because they had never needed to. Most species had energy shields that could contain explosions. Humanity didn't, so they had to find another way. The quantum disruptors sent out carefully calibrated interference patterns, reaching into the quantum foam of space-time itself. Each bomb was locked in a superposition state, simultaneously at its origin point and destination point until the quantum wave function collapsed. The disruptors forced premature collapse, but with modified entanglement coordinates. On Sarah's display, she watched as thousands of quantum signatures shifted. Bombs that had been materializing above New York suddenly appeared in the upper atmosphere. Devices forming in Beijing relocated to the Pacific Ocean. Every major population center's incoming attacks were redirected to safe zones: the upper atmosphere, deep ocean, remote areas. The timing wasn't perfect. 3 bombs materialized before the disruptors could redirect them. One appeared in a warehouse in Lagos. Another formed on a rural road in Argentina. The third materialized in an empty office building in Sydney that had been evacuated for renovations. All 3 detonated, but the casualties were minimal compared to what would have happened if thousands of bombs had appeared in city centers simultaneously. "It worked," Dr. Tanaka said, his voice shaking. "It actually worked. We redirected them." "Not all of them," Sarah said, looking at the casualty reports coming in. 23 dead in Lagos, 7 in Argentina. The Sydney bomb had killed no one. "But enough. Who sent these?" Admiral Otieno's voice came through the communicator, hard and cold. "Intelligence identified the quantum signatures. They match Salthian technology. This was a Salthian collective attack." The Salthian collective was a Tier 2 civilization, one of the most advanced in the galaxy. They had mastered quantum teleportation technology millennia ago and used it as the foundation of their entire civilization. Teleportation weapons were their specialty, their way of bypassing any conventional defense, except humanity had just proven those defenses weren't so conventional. "Admiral, I'm detecting something else," Sarah said, pulling up new data. "The quantum disruption we used to redirect the bombs, it's created a detailed map of the Salthian teleportation network. Every relay station, every quantum anchor point, I can see their entire infrastructure." "Can we use it?" Sarah looked at the data, her mind racing through possibilities. "More than that, we can weaponize it. Admiral, our ships have been equipped with experimental teleporters for 3 months now. Short range only, untested in combat. But if we know where their network anchor points are..." She didn't need to finish. Otieno understood immediately. "We can teleport our ships past their defenses. Director Kim, send me everything you have on their network, every coordinate, every relay point, and keep those disruptors active. If they try another attack, I want us ready." Understood. Transmitting data now. 20 minutes later, the UNS Defiant and 9 other human warships activated their quantum teleportation systems. The technology was crude by Salthian standards, only capable of short jumps, and it consumed enormous amounts of power. But it worked. One moment, the human fleet was in orbit around Mars, accelerating toward the outer system. The next moment, they materialized inside Salthian space, specifically at the coordinates Sarah's scans had identified as major military installations. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching as reality snapped back into focus around them. They were inside a Salthian military sphere, surrounded by defensive stations and warships. The Salthians had seconds to react, and those seconds were far too few. "All ships, weapons free," Chen ordered. "Railgun batteries full spread. Target defensive stations first, then capital ships." The human fleet opened fire at point-blank range. Tungsten carbide slugs tore through Salthian shields and hulls with the same brutal efficiency they had shown against the Vraxians. Defensive stations that had stood for centuries came apart in seconds. Warships designed to teleport strike forces across the galaxy died before they could charge their weapons. The Salthians tried to respond. Plasma cannons fired, particle beams lashed out, and a few teleportation weapons managed to activate. But the human ships had been positioned based on Sarah's network analysis. They knew exactly where the Salthian weapons would try to teleport ordnance, and they had quantum disruptors running at full power. Every teleportation attack got redirected into empty space. "Second wave, prepare to jump," Chen ordered. "Target the coordinates Director Kim provided. Weapons production facilities." The human ships vanished and reappeared above 4 different Salthian worlds, materializing directly above industrial complexes that produced their most advanced weapons. Kinetic bombardment from orbit, precise and devastating. The facilities burned. A third jump brought them to Salthian relay stations, the quantum anchor points that allowed their civilization-wide teleportation network to function. More railgun fire, more destruction. The Salthians were scrambling now, trying to organize a defense, but human ships kept appearing in unexpected locations, striking hard and jumping away before retaliation was possible. "Admiral Otieno is ordering fleet-wide withdrawal," the communications officer reported. "All ships to return to Sol system." Chen nodded. "Helm, plot a jump back to Mars orbit. Execute on my mark." He looked at the tactical display one last time, at the burning installations and crippled ships. "Mark!" The Defiant and its sister ships vanished, leaving the Salthians to assess the damage. The entire engagement had lasted 37 minutes from first shot to final withdrawal. Back on Earth, in the Tokyo facility, Sarah watched the fleet return on her displays. The data from the engagement was already flowing in, and what she saw made her breath catch. "Director," Dr. Tanaka said, "the quantum disruptors didn't just redirect their attacks. The feedback from the Salthian network, we learned how their entire teleportation system works. Every protocol, every quantum encryption key. Director, we can access their network. We can go anywhere they can go." Sarah pulled up the data, verifying what Tanaka was saying. He was right. The Salthians had used quantum entanglement as their ultimate advantage for thousands of years. And in one afternoon, humanity had not only countered that advantage, but stolen it. "Get this to Earth Defense Command immediately," Sarah ordered, "and prepare a full analysis. We need to understand every aspect of this system." Ambassador Elena Vasquez received the news 3 hours later in her office on the Council station. She had chosen to remain there, monitoring Council reactions to events. Now, looking at the reports from Earth and the Salthian engagement, she understood that everything had changed again. The door to her office opened without her permission. Overlord Zexthar entered, his scales showing colors she had never seen before. Dark purples and blacks that her research suggested meant extreme distress in his species. "You attacked the Salthians," he said without preamble. "A Tier 2 civilization. You destroyed military installations across their empire." "They attacked us first," Elena replied calmly. "They tried to detonate thousands of bombs in our cities. We defended ourselves and retaliated against their military infrastructure. We left their civilian populations untouched. You used teleportation technology. A Tier 7 species that supposedly lacks any advanced quantum capabilities, somehow not only detected their attack but countered it and used it against them." "We learned quickly," Elena said. "We've had 6 months to study the quantum mechanics behind teleportation. And when the Salthians were kind enough to demonstrate their network architecture by trying to murder our civilians, we took advantage of that knowledge." Zexthar moved to the window, looking out at the stars. "The Council is fragmenting. 12 species have formally withdrawn their membership in the past 3 hours. 40 more are threatening to do so. They say that if the Council cannot protect them from humanity, and if humanity can defeat Tier 2 civilizations, then the entire tier system is meaningless." "The tier system was always meaningless," Elena said. "It measured when species developed technologies, not how well they used them. It assumed development followed a single path. Humanity proved that assumption wrong." "What do you want?" Zexthar asked suddenly. "You have demonstrated your military capability twice now. You have humiliated the Council's authority. You have stolen Salthian quantum technology. What is your endgame?" Elena stood and walked to stand beside him at the window. "We want what we have always wanted. Equal treatment. The right to develop our own technologies without arbitrary restrictions. The freedom to explore and colonize without asking permission. We want to be part of a galactic community built on mutual respect, not a hierarchy enforced by ancient civilizations that haven't innovated in millennia. And if the Council cannot provide this, then the Council's authority is over," Elena said simply. "Not because we destroyed it, but because it destroyed itself by refusing to adapt. We're not trying to rule the galaxy, Zexthar. We're just refusing to be ruled by an unjust system." Zexthar was silent for a long moment. Finally he spoke, his voice quieter than Elena had ever heard it. "The Council will meet in 3 days, an emergency session. Many species are demanding humanity be declared a rogue civilization and eliminated as a threat. Others are arguing that humanity should be granted Tier 1 status immediately. Still others say the entire tier system should be abolished. What do you think should happen? Elena asked. I think, Zexthar said slowly, that my civilization spent 4,000 years assuming we understood how the galaxy worked. We thought we had reached the pinnacle of development. We looked down on younger species as children who needed guidance. And now, one of those younger species has destroyed our certainty in the span of 1 year. He turned to face her. I think we were wrong, and I think the galaxy must change because of it. Will you support that change? I will present the reality to the Council. What they do with that reality is beyond my control. But Ambassador Vasquez, understand this. There are species in the Council who will never accept this change. They will fight. They will bring everything they have against humanity. Are you prepared for that? Elena looked out at the stars, thinking of Earth. Of the 8 billion people who had survived today because of technology, the Council had dismissed as impossible for a Tier 7 species. She thought of the other younger species, ones still under the Council's thumb, who were watching and learning. We've been preparing since the day we looked up at the stars and decided we weren't alone, she said. Whatever comes next, we'll face it. But we won't face it alone anymore. 1 year after the Salthian incident, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before humanity made first contact. The Galactic Council, which had ruled for 12,000 years, had dissolved in a cascade of withdrawals, defections, and internal conflicts. The grand station where it had once met now sat empty, a monument to assumptions that no longer held. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in a different station now, one that humanity had built in cooperation with 40 other species. It was smaller than the old Council station, more functional, less grandiose. The Federation Station, they called it, orbiting a yellow star in neutral space that no species claimed as their own. Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Federation's founding, and representatives from 83 species had come to attend. Elena looked out at the assembly hall, so different from the council chamber she remembered. There were no ascending rings of seats here, no hierarchy of placement, just a circular arrangement where every species sat at the same level. Tier designations had been abolished. There were no rankings, no restrictions, only a simple charter, mutual respect, self-determination, and collective defense. Quite a crowd, Ambassador Hayes said, joining Elena at the observation window. Hayes had been humanity's representative to the Council before its dissolution. Now she served as Humanities Federation Secretary, managing the day-to-day operations of the new organization. 83 species, Elena said. Last month it was 76. The month before, 68. We're growing. So is the remnant, Hayes warned. The remnant was what they called the die-hard Council loyalists, who refused to accept the new order. Roughly 30 species, mostly the oldest and most technologically advanced, who had retreated to their core territories and declared the Federation illegal. Intelligence reports they're building something. A new fleet, much larger than anything they've fielded before. How long until it's operational? 6 months, maybe 8. They're being smart about it this time. No assumptions about human capabilities. They're designing specifically to counter kinetic weapons and quantum disruptors. Elena nodded. She had expected this. The remnant couldn't accept that their authority was gone. They would try to reclaim it by force, and this time they would be prepared. Have we shared this intelligence with the other Federation members? Full briefing scheduled for tomorrow. But Elena, some of our newer members are getting nervous. They joined the Federation because we defeated the Council twice. Now they're hearing the remnant is building a fleet specifically to defeat us. Questions are being asked about whether we can actually protect them. Can we? Hayes smiled slightly. You should ask Admiral Chen. He's been preparing for this since the day the Council dissolved. The Federation Assembly met the next day, with all 83 member species represented. Elena stood at the central podium, no longer as a mere ambassador, but as Secretary General, elected by unanimous vote 6 months earlier. She looked out at the faces and variations of faces watching her. "Members of the Federation," she began, "we gather today to address a growing threat. The species who remained loyal to the old council, who we call the Remnant, are preparing for war. Intelligence from multiple sources confirms they are building a massive fleet designed specifically to defeat Federation forces and restore council authority across the galaxy." Murmurs spread through the assembly. A representative from the Kilovex, a species of crystalline beings, spoke up. "Secretary General, when we joined the Federation, we did so believing humanity's military innovations gave us protection from council aggression. But the Remnant has studied your tactics. They are adapting. What assurance can you provide that the Federation can withstand their assault?" It was a fair question, and Elena had expected it. "I cannot provide absolute assurance. No one can promise certain victory in war. What I can tell you is that humanity has not been idle this past year. Neither have many of you. We have shared technologies, refined tactics, and built capabilities that didn't exist when the Council fell." She activated a holographic display showing the Federation's current military assets. 1 year ago, the human fleet consisted of 18 warships. Today, the Federation fleet includes 73 ships from 12 different species, all equipped with kinetic weapons, quantum disruptors, and shared technology. We have defense grids protecting every member world. And we have something the old council never had: cooperation born of choice, not coercion. An insectoid representative from the Vraxians spoke next. Yes, the Vraxians. After their defeat at Kelvar, they had been among the first to approach humanity about an alliance. "Secretary General, my species learned firsthand the effectiveness of human weapons. But we also learned that adaptation is possible. If we could learn from our defeat, so too can the Remnant. What new capabilities has humanity developed?" Elena glanced at Captain Chen, who stood near the edge of the assembly. He gave a slight nod, and Elena continued. "We have been working on several projects. Project Cascade involves layered point defense systems that can intercept thousands of targets simultaneously. Project Hammer extends railgun range and velocity beyond what we thought possible. And Project Mirror." She paused. "Project Mirror is something we're not ready to fully disclose, but it involves turning the Remnant's own technology against them in ways they won't anticipate." "Secrecy?" The Kilovex representative's crystalline structure pulsed with colors that Elena's translator interpreted as concern. "The Federation was founded on transparency. And we maintain that transparency among ourselves," Elena agreed. "But we would be fools to broadcast our full capabilities to the Remnant. When the time comes, when they make their move, you will see what we have prepared. Until then, I ask for trust. We have never failed you. We won't start now." The assembly debated for hours, but ultimately they voted to support continued military preparations. Some species pledged additional ships. Others offered technological contributions. The Vraxians, surprisingly, offered to share their own energy shield technology, modified to work in conjunction with human kinetic weapons rather than against them. 3 months later, the Remnant made their move. Their fleet was massive, over 200 warships from 30 different species. They had indeed adapted, designing armor specifically to resist kinetic impacts and shields that could at least slow projectiles, even if they couldn't stop them completely. Their weapons had been upgraded too, capable of rapid fire to overwhelm point defenses. They jumped into Federation space at the Tarvin system, a strategic location that served as a major trade hub for 15 Federation members. The message was clear: surrender or watch as we destroy your infrastructure and blockade your trade. The Federation response was equally clear: The UNS Defiant was no longer a lone ship defending human interests. It led a fleet of 68 vessels, a coordinated force representing 14 different species. Captain Chen stood on his bridge, now wearing the rank of Fleet Admiral, and watched the remnant forces position themselves. They learned from Kelvar, his tactical officer observed. Dispersed formation, constant movement, overlapping fields of fire, they're not giving us easy targets. No, they're not, Chen agreed, but they're still thinking in terms of the old ways. Communications. All ships. Execute Cascade Protocol. Throughout the Federation fleet, point defense systems activated in a coordinated network. Every ship's sensors linked together, creating a unified targeting grid. When the remnant fleet opened fire with their particle beams and plasma weapons, they expected to overwhelm individual ships' defenses. Instead, the entire Federation fleet acted as one organism. Point defense systems across 68 ships tracked every incoming shot and assigned intercept priorities in microseconds. Missiles launched, laser batteries fired, and kinetic interceptors deployed. The remnant's overwhelming firepower ran into a wall of coordinated defense and dissolved. Phase 2, Chen ordered. Hammer strike. The Federation's capital ships had been equipped with experimental long-range railguns, weapons that pushed magnetic acceleration technology to theoretical limits. They fired from extreme range, slugs moving at 5% of light speed, aimed not at ships, but at the empty space where remnant vessels would be in 2 seconds. The remnant commanders, skilled tacticians who had fought across hundreds of battles, followed standard evasive protocols. They moved their ships in patterns designed to make targeting difficult. Those patterns were predictable to anyone who studied Council tactical doctrine, which humanity had been doing for a year. Railgun slugs arrived precisely where the remnant ships maneuvered into. The new armor held better than the old Vraxian designs, but not well enough. Holes appeared in hulls. Atmosphere vented. Power systems failed. In the first 90 seconds of engagement, the remnant lost 15 ships to what appeared to be impossibly lucky shots. "They're adapting," the tactical officer reported, "switching to random evasion patterns. Then we switch too. All ships. Execute mirror protocol." This was the project Elena had mentioned, but not explained. Throughout the Federation fleet, quantum sensors activated, the same systems they had used to counter Salthian teleportation attacks. But instead of just detecting quantum signatures, these systems did something more sophisticated. They detected the energy signatures of remnant weapons charging up, analyzed the quantum state of their targeting computers, and transmitted interference patterns that corrupted the targeting data. Remnant plasma cannons fired at coordinates that were slightly off. Particle beams missed by meters. Exotic matter disruptors struck nothing but vacuum. The remnant fleet was shooting blind, their own advanced targeting systems betrayed by quantum interference they couldn't detect. Meanwhile, the Federation fleet poured kinetic fire into the enemy formation with brutal precision. "Remnant fleet is breaking formation," communications reported. "Multiple vessels signaling surrender. The command ship is attempting to withdraw." "Let them go," Chen ordered. "Accept the surrenders. All ships cease fire on vessels that have signaled compliance." The battle ended 43 minutes after it began. The remnant had arrived with 212 ships. They retreated with 147. 65 vessels had been destroyed or captured. Federation losses totaled 3 ships destroyed and 7 heavily damaged. In the aftermath, as rescue operations recovered survivors from both sides, Elena arrived at the Tarvin system aboard a diplomatic shuttle. The leaders of the remnant fleet, those who had surrendered, were brought to the Federation flagship for negotiations. The commander was Zexthar. The old overlord looked diminished somehow, his scales showing more gray than they once had. He sat across from Elena in the conference room, guarded but not restrained. "You have won again," he said without preamble. "Will you execute us as examples?" "No," Elena said simply. We will offer you the same choice we offer everyone. Join the Federation as equals, or return to your territories and leave us alone. Those are your only options. And if we choose neither, if we rebuild and come at you again, then we will defeat you again and again. Until you understand that we're not your enemies, Yexthar. The old hierarchy, the assumption that age equals wisdom and power equals right, that's the enemy. We didn't destroy the council. It destroyed itself by being unable to change. Yexthar was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. When you first came to the council station, I thought you were primitives. Arrogant primitives who needed to be taught their place. I was wrong about so many things. Not everything, Elena said. You were right that we were dangerous. Just not in the way you thought. We're dangerous to stagnation, to unjust hierarchies, to systems that crush innovation in the name of stability. And if I wanted to join your federation, my species, my people. Elena pulled up a document on the display. This is the Federation Charter. Read it. If your people agree to its terms, all species equal, no restrictions on self-development, mutual defense, collective prosperity, then you're welcome. We don't hold grudges against species for their leaders' choices. Over the next 3 months, 47 of the remnant's 30 species applied to join the Federation. Some, including Yexthar's people, were accepted after careful review. Others chose true independence, establishing their own territories outside Federation space, but maintaining trade relations. A handful of the oldest species simply vanished into deep space, unable to accept the new reality. The galaxy had been reorganized, not through conquest, but through demonstration. Humanity hadn't imposed a new order. They had simply proven that the old order was based on false assumptions. Other species made their own choices from there. 1 year after the Battle of Tarvin, Elena Vasquez stood in the same observation window where she had stood so many times before. But this time, she wasn't alone. Captain, now Admiral, Chen stood beside her, along with Sarah Kim, who had been appointed Federation Science Director, and Ambassador Hayes. You look thoughtful, Sarah observed. Still worried about threats? Always, Elena admitted. There are still species out there who hate what we've built. Pirates who see Federation trade as easy targets. Unknowns in unexplored space. The galaxy is dangerous. But different dangerous, Chen added. Not dangerous because of enforced hierarchy and resentment. Just the natural dangers of a big universe. Do you think it will last? Hayes asked. The Federation? Or will it eventually become just another council enforcing its own orthodoxy? Elena considered the question seriously. That depends on us, on whether we remember where we came from. Humanity spent 50 years being ignored, then 1 year being underestimated. We know what it's like to be dismissed as primitive. As long as we remember that, as long as we remain committed to letting others make their own choices, I think we can avoid becoming what we fought against. And if we forget? Sarah asked. Then someone else will come along and teach us the same lesson we taught the council, Elena said. Some species even younger, even more innovative, who will show us our assumptions are wrong. And that will be healthy. That's how civilizations grow. A tone sounded, indicating an incoming transmission. Hayes checked her data pad. It's from the exploration fleet. They've made contact with a new species on the galactic rim, pre-FTL but close to achieving it. How are they being approached? Chen asked, concerned. Hayes smiled. According to protocol, observation only, no interference. We're waiting for them to achieve FTL on their own. When they do, we'll introduce ourselves and offer friendship. No demands, no restrictions. Just an invitation to join the galactic community when they're ready. Elena nodded approvingly. That's how it should be. No more primitive classifications. No more tier systems. Just patience and respect. She looked out at the stars, at the ships from 83 different species docked at the station, at the diverse beings walking the corridors in peace. A year ago, the galaxy had been ruled by fear and assumption. Today, it was held together by choice and cooperation. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, disagreements, and challenges. Some Federation members still struggled to work together, old prejudices dying hard. Pirates raided Federation trade routes. Unknown threats lurked in unexplored regions. And somewhere out there, the handful of remnant species who had refused to accept the new order were probably plotting. But it was better. Measurably, undeniably better. A young officer approached, human and fresh from the academy. "Secretary General, there's someone here who wants to meet you, says she was inspired by your story." Elena turned and saw a being she didn't recognize, with 6 limbs and skin that shifted through colors like oil on water. Her translator identified the language as Kelthian, a species that had just joined the Federation 2 months ago. "Secretary General Vasquez," the being said in accented but clear English. "My name is Zilmora. I lead my species' first deep space exploration mission. We are about to chart regions no Kelthian has ever seen. When I was afraid, when I doubted whether we were ready, I remembered your species' story, how you were told you were primitive, told to stay in your small territory, told to give up your weapons, and how you refused. You taught us that primitive is just another word for different, and different is not inferior." Elena felt a lump in her throat. This is what they had fought for. Not dominance, not revenge. Just the right for every species to determine their own path. "Thank you, Silmora," she said. "Explore safely. And remember, whatever you find out there, you have the right to meet it on your own terms. That's not arrogance, that's self-respect." Silmora's colors shifted to what Elena had learned indicated joy in her species. "We will remember, and we will teach others just as you taught us." After Silmora left, Sarah spoke quietly. "Do you ever think about how it started? One shuttle landing on a council station, expecting to be welcomed and finding contempt instead." "Every day," Elena said. "If Ziexthar had shown us respect from the beginning, if the council had treated us as equals, would any of this have happened? Would we have developed all these innovations? Would we have built the Federation?" "Probably not," Chen said. "Sometimes being underestimated is an advantage. They ignored us, so we could prepare without interference. They mocked our weapons, so we perfected them without restriction. They assumed we would submit, so we had the freedom to choose resistance. The Council's arrogance was its downfall," Hayes added, "and our response to that arrogance changed the galaxy. There's a lesson in that." Elena smiled. "Several lessons. Never assume you've reached the end of innovation. Never mistake different for inferior. Never believe that power gives you the right to rule others. And most importantly, never underestimate a species that has nothing to lose and everything to prove." She looked out at the Federation station, at the ships and people representing so many different worlds and cultures. They had come together not because of conquest or coercion, but because they chose to. Because they believed in something better than the old ways. "Railguns first," she said softly, remembering the Battle of Kelvar. "Teleporters next," and the shock erased the Council's authority across the stars. "That's quite a title," Sarah said with a smile. "Someone should write it down. Future generations should know this story." "They will," Elena said, "but not as a story of human triumph over the aliens, as a story of what happens when assumptions meet reality, when hierarchy meets self-determination, when the old order refuses to adapt and the new one rises to replace it. That's not a human story. It's a universal one." "Do you think we're done?" Chen asked. "Is this the final chapter?" Elena shook her head. "No, this is just the beginning. We've reorganized one galaxy, but there are billions of galaxies out there, billions of stories waiting to be written. Some species will rise like we did. Others will fall like the Council did, and the cycle will continue, as it always has and always will. Then what do we do now? Elena looked at each of them, her friends, her colleagues, the people who had helped reshape the galaxy. Now, we make sure this new order we built stays true to its principles. We explore. We learn. We help others who need it. We defend against threats. And most importantly, we remember. We remember what it was like to be dismissed and underestimated, so that we never do that to someone else. She turned back to the window, to the infinite stars beyond. Somewhere out there, other species were looking up at their own skies, dreaming of the day they would reach the stars. Some of them would face councils and hierarchies and restrictions. Some would submit, others would resist. And when they did resist, when they fought for their right to determine their own future, they would find allies waiting. The Federation would be there, not to rule them or restrict them, but to stand beside them. Because that was what the Federation was for. The galaxy had changed, not because humanity was stronger or smarter than everyone else, but because they had refused to accept someone else's definition of what they could be. That simple refusal, that basic insistence on self-determination, had shattered an order 12,000 years old, and in its place, something better had begun to grow. Elena Vasquez, former naval officer, diplomat, and now Secretary General of the Federation, smiled at the stars. The future was uncertain, as it always was, but for the first time in 12,000 years, it was also free, and that made all the difference.